I will meet you in Columbine. I will meet you in Columbine to watch a documentary about the gun culture in America and to discuss a few things on my mind. 30 years ago, I had an idea for a novel. The President of the United States, played by John Wayne in the film of the book that was never made, took away the right to bear arms from the people of the United States. The National Gun Club member, played by Marlon Brando, could not accept the new law passed by the United States Senate. I will meet you in Columbine. There is no reason not to say this anymore. There were two towers standing. One of them fell down. The one was called the Soviet Union, the other the United States of America. I watched this documentary. The pictures flickered by, telling the story of a nation living in fear of itself, who had the need to defend themselves from something else. I will meet you here in Columbine, and we will count the bodies of dead children who paid the price of being in the wrong place in the wrong time. The man spoke to people who gave their reasons for doing what they did. They said they were shocked that so many children could be killed as they placed their fingers on the trigger of their guns. I will meet you in Columbine by the library shelf, where we can read the recipes from the anarchist cookbook, and we can blow up the nation with pipe bombs from deep within. The enemy being your children. And why then do they do all this? This desire to kill this nation and all that it is, this brave home of the free, where all of it is bliss. In the film, Marlon Brando has two sons aged 18 and 16, both of whose names I have forgotten because I had this idea for a novel long ago. The eldest son obeyed his father and learned all there was to know about guns. The youngest one wrote words of peace in a book and hated the fact there were guns in the house. I will meet you in Columbine, where the blind man shoots at the targets as the Beatles sing "Happiness is a Warm Gun," and you know it is, don't you, John? We laughed at the antics, my daughter and I, of those well-armed lunatics, not realizing till now how sick this nation is and just how close it is to sliding into the abyss. I watched as the man choked up when he said what happened at the high school bothered him. In the film, Marlon Brando decided he was going to kill the president, who was a nervous wreck as he knew what he had done and the probable consequence of taking the right to bear arms from God-fearing Americans. Brando left the family home to travel to Washington, where those who supported the right to carry guns protested at the White House gates. I will meet you in the armaments plant where we are Columbine is written on the side of every missile. The man there said those children must have been angry about something. We are donating money to run anger management programs which will solve this problem for them. We looked at those missiles hung there on the shelf, waiting to be delivered to somebody else. Louis Armstrong sang "What a Wonderful World" as the dead were paraded for all to see, the unfortunate byproduct of American foreign policy. The eldest of the two sons often teased his weak-willed brother for never being a man enough to handle a gun, but even he was shocked when he realized where his father was going, to Washington, to kill the president. And those boys who for the first time found they had something in common went off to find their father before he could do something that could never be undone. I will meet you in Columbine, and we can talk of the events that took place where the children killed each other for some reason the documentary maker said that we'll probably never know. Though they killed each other because they are given no reason to live, they killed each other because it was the only way they could bring attention to themselves. I will meet you in Columbine at the local Kmart, and we will arm ourselves to the teeth as a form of protest. We can buy bullets on the cheap. They are on offer there. Buy one, get one free. And there was dear old Moses with that smug smile on his square-jawed face. You know the one he wore when he opened the Red Sea, with that staff he held outstretched over the waters, the smile he wore proudly when he shouted to those escaping Pharaoh's army 5 simple words of devotion from my cold hands. From my cold, dead hands, while those two sons travelled across America trying to find their father for the first time ever. They got to know each other and realised that they lived their lives in the shadow of the gun. Their father carried in his hand, the eldest son read the words of his younger brother, who wrote of love and peace, of people working and living together for a better America. I will meet you in Columbine, amongst all those groovy folk where they all come to talk about how good it is to carry a gun and the fun you can have being a responsible citizen, where they kill the children to make their point. They put the gun into the little boy Daniel's face. Was it because his smile reminded them of the all-American boy and the all-American dream, a dream that always seemed to be denied to them, those who carried the gun? In the film, Marlon Brando arrived in Washington with his sense of purpose reinforced by all those who gathered to make their protest against the basic human right that had been taken away from them. How can you be ready in a minute, man, if they take away your gun? I will meet you in Columbine, where the documentary maker took the lid off the sewer, where they put all the things they don't want to be seen, where everything on the surface was supposed to be good and true and pure and clean, but the man who made the documentary put his hands in there and scooped at the slime that made up this art of darkness. Why do children go to school? Not to learn something. There is nothing there to learn. They are being given the freedom to know for themselves, to go find it for yourself. That is what you are supposed to do. After all, you are not sheep in a flock bound for the ovens of Auschwitz. The eldest of the two sons realized he had spent all his young life trying to be what he thought his father wanted him to be, a true American, while his younger brother understood what America was supposed to be and wrote it down in his book. And finally the oldest boy understood why he had to stop his father, who intended to kill the president. I will meet you in Columbine, and we will go to the Marilyn Manson concert to face up to all the fears that he represents for us. But as I watched those who protested against the presence of Marilyn, I could not help recall those old newsreel films of those who protested against the young, handsome, virile Elvis Presley, who always was and still is the work of the devil, a communist conspiracy. And there was Marilyn himself, boiling it all down in his witch's cauldron, to the fear of what might happen to all those scared Americans who comforted themselves with the consumption of material goods, saying he would listen to the children, which no one else did. He would listen to the children and hear what they had to say. No one must have told him children should be seen and not heard. Marlon Brando made his way to the White House, shoving his way through the crowd of protesters parading along Pennsylvania Avenue, looking for a way to get past the guards standing around the White House gates. But he was an experienced hunter who knew how to locate his prey. I will meet you in Columbine, down at the bowling alley, where we will strike at something or somebody for making things the way they are. Is it our history of violence that makes us what we are? But we live in a violent world. Why is it different for Americans? The cartoon in the documentary showed the history of the white man of America, the song they sang of the values they hold so dear, their guns being their defence against all those inferior races whose skins are not white, who someone slipped in through the back door, the reason being why they moved to the suburbs. But it's the suburbs which are on fire. Having found their way to Washington, the two sons made their way to the White House, through the crowded streets where the mood of the protesters had grown ugly now, as they realized the president was not prepared to back down. I will meet you in Columbine, where fear is the key, where some bees were going to kill you, but they never arrived, nor did the millennium bug which would have sent us back to the Stone Age, circa 1955, nor did the boogeyman placing razor blades in Halloween apples trick or treat. Will never be the same again. The black and white TV screen flickered as it told the all-American white boys they had something to defend, the purity of the nation, from some unseen enemy that would taint their pure blood. You could see the look on their faces as they absorbed all that was good, which said when they grew up they would defend all things American, from something, from someone, whoever it was. Because he was a proficient huntsman, Brando managed to slip into the grounds of the White House, avoiding the National Guardsmen who were busy controlling the angry protesters gathered outside. He made his way inside the building as his two sons made their way onto Pennsylvania Avenue to the iron fence surrounding the home of the democratically elected president. I will meet you in Columbine, down at the jailhouse, where they drag in and book the black suspects arrested for the crimes their white accusers are sure they have done. I will meet you in the courthouse, where justice is blind and the sentences are carried out without a shadow of doubt. America's finest detaining the scum while they say the crime rate is dropping, where the possession of guns goes up. And what about the corporate criminals choking the nation on chemical dust? Do you arrest them? The documentary maker asked. He must have forgotten the all-American motto, "In God We Trust." Brando found himself outside the Oval Office. Chaos reigned all around. He opened the door. The president, played by John Wayne, sat at his desk. He looked up into the face of the man who had come to kill him. I will meet you in Columbine, where it is clear then that we blame God for all of the things that went wrong. That ancient old deity we all know does not exist, but no one listens to him anyway, even if he did, so there is no point in talking about God. Let's talk about vested interests instead. That if the people confront the obvious, as the man involved in the Oklahoma bombing said, the streets would run red with blood, there would be a revolution, but the problem then would be that people would not know who to kill. I will meet you in Columbine, of which the president said you must direct your anger toward your nation's enemies around the world, the ones who wish to see this great tower of freedom falling down. And yes, I recall dear old Moses riding into the desert on a planet inhabited by talking apes after the wise old monkey said, "Go see for yourself," and in being Moses that's exactly what he did. And there was Liberty, her head sticking out of the sand, and there was dear old agonized Moses crying, "The fools, what have they done?" And those words still echo from my cold, dead hands. In the final scene of the film, flames can be seen shooting into the sky. From behind the White House, a helicopter hovers above the presidential building. It is not known if Brando shoots the president, played by John Wayne. This is left ambiguous for the viewer of the film to decide the outcome, and if anything was resolved. I will meet you in Columbine to talk to you about all of this, though we have long known how America is sliding into the abyss, because they do not address the problem of a juvenile nation and the process of growing up, that they must put down their guns before they commit suicide and embrace the fact that all humanity is the human race. We will leave aside the matter of fact. All these things shall come to pass, for these two shall pass away, as all things do. The tall buildings fall down, the tall empires are dust. I will meet you in Columbine, where I will discuss with you how I recalled I had an idea for a novel all of 30 years ago. As I watched this documentary film, I imagined that John Wayne played the president who took away the people's right to bear arms. Marlon Brando played the National Gun Club member who believed that to kill animals marked a man down as a true American. It was Brando's children in the story who realised what their father intended to do. They spent their time trying to get him to change his mind, all to no avail. I will meet you in Columbine, where I will tell you the words Marlon Brando would have said if he had have made this film to the two boys who were his sons. The gun is your heritage. I am simply trying to preserve our traditional way of life. And the children would have said, we do not want you to kill the president. All we want is for you to be a father to us. But their father left them for his meeting with the chief executive. And those two children I spoke of went to their school with guns in their hands to show them off to all of their friends. They left a note on the table for their father to read when he returned, saying, "We hope this letter reaches you in time. If not, then we will meet you in Columbine."